What's up friends? Welcome back to my channel. I have been so excited to make this video because this is gonna be a book recommendation video on one of my favorite genres, which isn't a real genre, and that is gonna be sad books. The thing about sad books is that they just hit differently, especially when personally I'm in a sad mood, when I'm like not feeling the greatest. I love to read a sad book. There's something about it that just does something extra for me, and I just love it. So here I have 5 books that I thought were just really sad but also really freaking good. Let's dive right in. The first one is In an Instant by Suzanne Redfern, and I don't hear a lot of people talk about this book, but it is so unique and one of my favorites. It's the story of a 16-year-old girl named Finn, and Finn and 10 other people of her friends and her family members are all taking a trip together, and they are driving in a camper up a very steep and snowy mountain when the camper falls over the side and lands down below, and Finn does not make it. However, the story continues on from her point of view even after she has passed away. Talk about a unique narrator. I've never read anything like this. Apparently there is a follow-up to this book that I had no idea existed until someone else mentioned it to me. So I'm gonna look into that one too. It's actually been a while since I've read this book, but it has stuck with me all of this time. It's just a very powerful book as you follow like Finn looking down on the aftermath of the crash and how everyone copes with the loss of her, and how she's like looking down on that and not able to intervene, but is still able to tell her side of the story. I just loved it. Such a good book. Definitely one of the more unique books that I have ever read, and it is very sad. Next we have Runaway Train by Lee Matthew Goldberg. This is another book that I have read a really long time ago, and it has stuck with me ever since. It's one of my favorites. This one follows a 16-year-old girl named Kristen who had a sister that they have just found out passed away from a brain aneurysm. And after the sister's passing, the parents just have a really hard time coping and dealing with life. And in the aftermath of that, Kristen kind of gets neglected by her parents. Neglected is a strong word, but they're so like wrapped up in their own grief, but that they can't really help her deal with her grief. And so she ends up resorting to just a bad scene. She is not doing well in school. She's getting into drugs, and things are just very dark in her life at this point. Dealing with all of that, she decides that it's the perfect time to just skip town. She is gonna pack up her car and she is gonna go and get away from it all and go out on a journey to just check off some things from her bucket list. I felt like the writing in this book is just unmatched, and it's just so raw and beautiful as you follow like her journey and go through all of her feelings with her. It also takes place during like the 90s grunge music scene, which is very like heavily emphasized throughout the story because the main character is just super into it. But the way the entire book like encompasses that vibe is so well done. I really loved this book so much, and it, like I said, it's one of the ones that has stuck with me for a really long time, and it is sad, but it is also very redeeming. It's a beautiful story. I definitely recommend this one. Next I have a really popular one, Still Beating by Jennifer Hartman. This one is known by a lot of people, but when I read this going into it, I had no idea what to expect, and it really took me by surprise, but in the best way. In this story, we follow Cora, the female main character, and Dean, the male main character, and Dean is her sister's fiance. They actually hate each other, but one night Cora is out and she needs a ride home, and Dean is the only option. So she calls on him for a ride, and when he comes to pick her up to give her a ride home, they both are abducted by some crazy madman and end up chained in his basement. Needless to say, there are some pretty heavy trigger warnings in this book, so if you're sensitive to anything, please be sure to look that up. But Cora and Dean are forced to do some pretty unspeakable things, and it is just a wild story. It is so emotional, can be very hard to read at some points, but the way that this like whole entire story plays out, this writing is insanely good. Honestly, this one gives off like the held captive trope vibe, but it is so much more than that. The story goes so much deeper, and like when the emotional aspect of everything kicks in, it is just incredible. I love this book so much. Speaking of loving a book, this next one is one of my all-time favorite books ever. Just ever. I don't know what can compare to this. Tiffany D. Jackson is one of my favorite authors, and this book, Monday's Not Coming, is the first one that I ever read from her, and oh my goodness. It is the story of a young girl named Claudia who does not know why she can't get in contact with her best friend. School is out for the summer, they had plans to get together, but she's not answering her phone. Like, nobody answers the questions of where is she. She's asking questions, but nothing is adding up. And so at the start of the new school year, the first day of school comes back along, and she is so excited to finally go to school and see her friend and ask her like where she's been all summer. And when she goes, she's not there. The ending of this book caught me so off guard in several different ways, like not even just in one way, but in so many different ways. You are just so invested in the story of like, where is her friend at and what is going on and why won't anyone answer her questions? And you form all of these like assumptions in your head, and then at the end it's just when everything comes to light, like it's literally a shocker, and I was speechless after reading this book. I also found out after the fact that it's based on a true story. Like, some of the events in this book are very real, and that makes it even more shocking. I can talk about this book forever. It is that good. This is just another book that literally never leaves your brain. Last but not least, we have Devil is Fine by John Vercher. This is a pretty short book, and this one is another one that I don't think I'll ever forget. It follows the story of a biracial man. He is half black and half white, and he has had a very rough relationship with his son for his son's entire life. He is now reeling from the loss of his son after a tragic accident, and he is just struggling with so much in his life at this time. And as he narrates his own story, he takes you back through the journey of his relationship with his son and different scenes that played out that now that his son is gone, he wishes he could change. And even just that alone makes this such a raw and heartfelt and emotional story. But on top of that, there's a second like side to the plot where, as a biracial man, he receives a letter of inheritance from his white side of the family saying that he inherits a piece of land that used to be a plantation. So needless to say, he is struggling with so much at this time, and as he narrates the story, it is just like he is spilling his soul out onto the pages. It is just very emotional and very memorable, and it's so sad. This is definitely such a unique story, and honestly, in such a short book, there is so much packed into this. There are also different elements of like very unique comparisons to jellyfish, like as you can see on the cover, that really don't make sense until they start making sense. Like, it was just so unique. I was honestly wondering what this cover was about as I was reading the story, and then once it all like came together, I just thought this was so good. Let me know if you guys have read any of these and what you thought about them, and please give me all of your sad book recommendations because I love a good sad book. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.